رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. لله تعالى. Correct your intentions. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. والله تعالى يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء. And God, exalted is He, misguides whomever He wills and guides whomever He wills. So here, An-Nasafiyyah changes the subject. He's finished talking about rizq, but he's still under the topic of destiny, because the deniers of destiny deny that Allah misguides whomever He wills. They only say He guides everyone. SharH, the explanation. معنى يضل أي يخلق الضلالة في من يشاء من عباده. The meaning of He misguides is that He creates misguidance in whomever He wills of His slaves. ومعنى يهدي هنا, and the meaning of He guides here is يخلق الاهتداء في قلب من يشاء من عباده, that He creates the guidance in the heart of whomever He wills amongst His slaves. وهذا معنى قول التفتزاني, and this is the meaning of what التفتزاني said, بمعنى خلق الضلالة والاهتداء, meaning the creation of misguidance and guidance. لأنه الخالق وحده, because He is the creator alone. انتهى, end quote. فلا أحد يهدي أو يضل بهذا المعنى إلا الله. Thus, no one guides or misguides with this meaning but Allah. فالأنبياء وأتباعهم لا يهدون بهذا المعنى. And so, the prophets and their followers, like us, do not guide with this meaning. إنما هم يهدون بمعنى, rather they guide by another meaning. بمعنى أنهم يدلون الناس على طريق الهدى, according to the meaning that they show people the way of guidance. They point the people in the right direction. أما خلق الاهتداء, as for the creation of guidance, فليس مما يدخل في إمكانهم, it is not something within their capabilities. لأنه لا أحد يخلق الهداية ولا الضلالة في القلب إلا الله, because there is no one who creates the guidance or the misguidance in the heart but God. لذلك الأنبياء ما هدوا بهذا المعنى الذي هو خلق الاهتداء كثيرا من أقاربهم. For this reason, the prophets did not guide with this meaning of creating the guidance. They did not guide with this meaning of creating the guidance many of their relatives. فنوح عليه السلام ما استطاع أن يقلب قلب ابنه. And so Noah, may peace be upon him, was unable to turn the heart of his son, الذي عصاه فغرق مع الكفار, his son who disobeyed him and drowned with the blasphemers. It was said that the son of his was a hypocrite, by the way. That means Noah didn't know he was a kafir. Yeah. He didn't know he was a kafir. He used to show his father that he was a believer, and then when he would be around the kuffar, he would show them that he's not a believer. And he would speak against his father. And he didn't know his son was a kafir until the flood came and he found his son stranded. So he told him, ride with us and do not be with the kuffar. So he said, I will climb the highest mountain. And he told them, there is no protection from God's command today, etc. كذلك إبراهيم ما استطاع أن يخلق في أبيه الاهتداء. Likewise, Abraham was unable to create guidance in his father. لكنه هداه بمعنى دله على طريق الرشاد. However, he did guide his father with the meaning of pointing out to him the way of guidance. وَكَذَلِكَ سَيِّدُنَا مُحَمَّدٌ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And likewise, Master Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, بَعْضُ أَقَارِبِهِ مَهْتَدَوْا. Some of his relatives were not guided. وَبَعْضُهُمْ مُهْتَدَوْا. And some of them were guided. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يخلق الاهتداء في قلوب الناس. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not create guidance in the hearts of the people. إنما أقدره الله على الدلالة. Rather, Allah merely enabled him to point the way. بالبيان, by clarification. وهذا معنى ما على الرسول إلا البلاغ. This is the meaning of the 99th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah. Nothing that I just recited for you. It means nothing is on the messenger but conveyance or delivery, not the guidance. Yani, it will not be held against the messenger if someone is not guided. أي أنه يدل الناس على طريق الهداية, meaning that he points the people to the path of guidance. ولا قدرة له على خلق الهداية فيهم, على خلق الهداية فيهم, and he has no power to create the guidance in them. قال التفتزاني. التفتزاني said. Who's التفتزاني, by the way? Tell me. We keep naming him, so I want you to tell me, because I told you.
Wasn't he a Muslim?
You said what? Wasn't he a Muslim? Is that what you said?
Mujtahid.
Oh, Mujtahid. No, he's not Mujtahid. The answer I'm looking for
that Shaykh Abdullah rahimahullah always speak upon him.
The answer I'm looking for is he was the explainer of An-Nasafiyyah, or one of them. I don't know if he's a linguist. Yani, he did maybe the most famous explanation for Nasafi. So that's why Shaykh cites him, because Shaykh is now explaining the text of An-Nasafiyyah. So in the process of explaining the text of An-Nasafiyyah, he also cites someone else who explained Nasafiyyah. Yeah, that's common. Like, for example, there was a scholar, his name is Subhanallah, what's his name? Al-Aini. He explained Al-Bukhari. He came before Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. So when Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani explained Al-Bukhari, he always cites him. And that's very common. Also, Shaykh, he explains Tahawi sometimes. He explains Tahawi. So while he's explaining Tahawi, he says, Al-Qunawi said. His Qunawi explained Tahawi too. And he says, Mankubar said. Mankubar's explained Tahawi too. So that's just a reminder for you. قال التفتزاني. التفتزاني, who's one of the explainers of An-Nasafi, said, وفي التقييد بالمشيئة إشارة إلى أن ليس المراد بالهداية بيان طريق الحق. At-Taftazani said, in restricting this guiding to the will of God, because what did Nasafi say? He said, Wallahu ta'ala yudillu man yasha. Allah misguides whomever He wills. وَيَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ, and He guides whomever He wills. So the will is there. So the will is mentioned there. So At-Taftazani wants to comment on the significance of mentioning God's will here. He says, in restricting this to God's will, there's a signal to that it's not intended by guidance here showing the right way. Showing the right way is not intended in the author's statement. لأنه عام في حق الكل ولا الإضلال عبارة عن وجدان العبد ضالا. Okay. So when we say Allah guides whomever He wills, this is not a reference to the slave being pointed in the right direction. This is a reference to Allah creating in the slave being guided. As for being pointed in the right direction, that's something else. وَلَا الْإِضْلَالِ عِبَارَةٌ عَنْ وِجْدَانِ الْعَبْدِ ضَالًّا. And also, the misguiding is not in reference to finding a slave of God, a misguided one. No. Rather, it's a reference to God. Iblal means creating the misguidance in the slave. وَتَسْمِيَتِهِ ضَالًّا. The Iblal, so Iblal means creating misguidance in the slave. At-Taftazani said the Iblal, the creation of misguidance, is not in reference to finding a slave misguided, وَتَسْمِيَتِهِ ضَالًّا, and then calling him misguided. To encounter a misguided slave of God and then to call him misguided. This is not the meaning of إضلال, misguiding. إذ لا معنى لتعليق ذلك بمشيئة الله تعالى. Because it's meaningless to link that to God's will. Exalted is He. That, I'm not clear what that statement means right there. But I'm not going to think about it. Now, if I pause and think for a minute, maybe that statement's going to come clear for me. I'm not going to, though. Intaha, end quote. وَأَوَّلَتِ الْمُعْتَزِلَةُ قَوْلَهُ تَعَالَى يُضِلُّ مَن يَشَاءُ. And the Mu'tazila have given an alternative interpretation to what God said in the 8th ayah of Surah Fatir. That means He misguides whomever He wills. So again, Abdul Qawi, you asked me in some previous lessons. These deniers of destiny, they didn't find ayahs of the Quran. Indeed, they found ayahs of the Quran. So what did they do? They played with them. They toyed with them. So, like right here, it's so clear. He misguides whomever He wills. So that's a perfect example of the astonishment in your question. They didn't find some ayahs of the Quran. So now you're going to see the great lengths they go to say the wrong thing. على معنى أنه يسميهم ضالين. They say this means that God merely calls them misguided. He misguides whomever He wills means He designates the name misguided to them. So designating them as quote unquote misguided, that's His misguiding them. لا على معنى أنه يخلق الضلالة فيهم. It doesn't mean He creates misguidance in them. وَهَذَا تَبْدِيلٌ لَيْسَ بِتَأْوِيلٍ. Shaykh says, this is perversion and not merely an alternative interpretation. What they say about this ayah, this is the 8th ayah of Surah Fatir, Shaykh says what they say about this ayah is really perversion. It's not merely a reinterpretation. ثم قال التفتزاني. Now this made the statement clear. The one that wasn't clear for me. So let me back up a little bit. At-Taftazani said, in limiting this to God's will, there's a signal to that it's not meant by guidance, that that Allah creates the guidance. It's not meant here that the meaning of pointing the right way out to someone is not intended when we say God guides whomever he wills. When we say God guides whomever he wills, this does not have the meaning of pointing the right way out to someone. And also, when we say, the Arabic word is idlal, misguides, that's a transitive verb. He misguides, or misguiding, idlal means misguiding. Misguiding is not merely a reference to finding a slave misguided and just calling him misguided. Misguiding someone is not designating someone as being misguided, because there is no need to link that to the will of God. That means when God said in the Quran, "Yudillu man yasha," he misguides whomever he wills. Or when the author said in his text, "Wallahu ta'ala yudillu man yasha," Allah ta'ala misguides whomever he wills. So mentioning the will here, the mentioning of the will here makes us know that this is not an issue of merely designating someone as being misguided. Rather, it refers to creating the misguidance in him. So that's clear. If it's not clear for you, let me know, inshallah. ثم قال التفتزاني, then التفتزاني said, وقد يسند الإضلال إلى الشيطان مجازا. It is possible to attribute misguiding to Satan or the devil, figuratively. كما يسند إلى الأصنام. Just as it could also be figuratively attributed to idols. And it could be said the devil misguided him, or it could be said the idols misguided him. Now that's a figure of speech, because when we say misguiding, idlal, we fundamentally mean God's creating the misguidance in one. ثم المذكور في كلام المشايخ أن الهداية عندنا خلق الاهتداء. Furthermore, what's mentioned in the talk of the Shaykhs, this is still Taftazani talking, is that hidayah, guiding, according to us, is creating guidance, is the creation of guidance. ومثل هداه الله فلم يهتد مجاز عن الدلالة والدعوة إلى الاهتداء. And if such a statement were said, if this statement that I'm going to say to you now were said, if it were said, God guided him and he was not guided, then this is a figure of speech referring to the fact that this person was pointed, that the way was pointed out to this person by God's will, that God willed for the way to be pointed out for this person, but he wasn't guided. انتهى. وعلى هذين المعنيين ينزل قوله تعالى. And according to these two meanings, the word of God is interpreted. This one, which is the 17th ayah of Surah Fussilat. وَأَمَّا ثَمُودُ فَهَدَيْنَاهُمْ فَاسْتَحَبُّوا الْعَمَى عَلَى الْهُدَى. As for the tribe of Thamud, we guided them, but they preferred blindness over guidance. وَمَعْنَى قَوْلِهِ فَهَدَيْنَاهُمْ. So the meaning of God saying, we guided them, أي دَلَلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى طَرِيقِ الْهُدَى. It is, we showed them the right way. وَلَيْسَ مَعْنَاهُ خَلَقْنَا فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الْاهْتِدَاء. And it does not mean here that we created the guidance in their hearts. لأنه لو خلق في قلوبهم الاهتداء لحصل منهم الاهتداء. Because had he actually created the guidance in their hearts, then the guidance would have been present in their hearts. They would have had the guidance. فالحاصل أن الهداية قد تكون بمعنى الدلالة على طريق يوصل إلى المطلوب. And so the summary, the synopsis is that hidayah, guiding, could come with the meaning of showing the right way, the way that leads to achieving the goal. سواء حصل الوصول والاهتداء أم لم يحصل. Whether one actually arrived at his goal and one actually were guided or not. وأما عند المعتزلة, but according to the Mu'tazila, فالهداية هي الدلالة على الطريق الموصلة إلى المطلوب. Guiding is limited to showing the right way. Wallahu ta'ala a'lamu wa ahkam. Allah knows best. Do you have any question I can answer for you? Which ayah was that in Surah Fatir again? Yes, let's see here. That is ayah 8. يُضِلُّ مَن يَشَاءُ. He misguides whomever he wills.
And that
Say again, please.
That saying you said we guided them, but they
but they preferred blindness over guidance.
that is figure of speech.
Fussilat, ayah 17.
No, one of them figure of speech.
Oh,
gave.
Yeah. Here,
okay.
فَهَدَيْنَاهُمْ, we guided them. That there is being used as a figure of speech.
Okay, I was making sure.
Because if it's not a figure of speech, means we created the guidance in their hearts. And that's not intended here, because the ayah continues to say, but they preferred blindness over guidance. So we guided them here. It means we pointed the way out to them. That means Allah sent a prophet to them who showed them the way. MashaAllah. That lesson was heavier than I anticipated it to be. It's a good review for me, MashaAllah. Subhanakallah. Yes.
Can you go back and say what Ali said in the beginning?
Yes. Ali said, الدنيا حلالها حساب وحرامها عقاب. The dunya, its lawful is a hisab, and its unlawful is an iqab. So iqab means torture. That part's clear, because it results in. Haramuha iqab, its haram is a torture, means its haram is a cause for torture. That part's clear. When he says halaluha hisab, that part's not clear for me how to explain it. So I don't really know how to direct the translation for the word hisab here. Hisab does mean, like the sister offered a translation, is it account? Might mean account, might mean a reckoning, a questioning. I really don't know how to direct it here. Question, do the enemies of Islam use this ayah of Surah Fatir 8 against the Muslims? Surah Fatir 8 against the Muslims? Just curious. Let me see. Surah Fatir. Do they use it against the Muslims? Maybe. Possibly. Like the Mu'tazila themselves, because they basically are saying, you people, look at the evil that you attribute to God. Look at the bad attributes that you confirm for God. According to them, we attribute the unbefitting attributes to Allah. So that's an attack on us. But maybe your question is about non-Muslims who are not affiliated with Islam, because Mu'tazila are non-Muslims affiliated with Islam. Still, possibly, maybe they might. Though usually the non-Muslims they would use other things as an attack on the religion, more worldly things, less theological, like issues about warfare or slavery or marriage, things like that. They would use as an attack on Islam. Ameen wa fikum.